Representative Michelle Bachmann is just back from the Middle East. She joins us. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
So you sort of hopscotched all over the Middle East, and Syria, of course, is one of the main issues, obviously. And you've been quoted as saying that if we do a military strike limited, it'll make matters worse.
Well, it is, because it is impossible to have a limited strike. There is no such animal, because we can't completely calculate what the other side will do, because it isn't just Assad. It's also Iran. It's also Russia. There's a lot of players that are involved. Turkey may have a role to play. Qatar may have a role to play. And if for some reason Assad decides to take missiles and they hit Turkey, at that point, you're talking to a NATO partner. This morning, I was just speaking with the NATO ambassador in Brussels. We were meeting with General Breedlove, also the head of NATO, over on the weekend. And Article 5 of our NATO charter says that if there's an attack on one NATO ally, then it is up to the United States and the other allies. We have to go and protect that ally. So if there is an attack on Turkey, then we're in.
Well, that's for a limited strike. I guess we could, I mean, nobody's in favor of this. No one's even discussing it. But are you suggesting that a more aggressive strike, a more definitive strike, even a regime change strike, although that certainly does get us, right into the weeds over there in terms of this civil war, are you suggesting to do that or to do nothing?
No, it's a disaster on every level. The administration has made, this is not partisan, they've made almost every wrong foreign policy move that they could make. They have been consistent, though, in their world view. I will give them that. They've been very consistent. Any time in any nation that they could choose the side of the Muslim Brotherhood, they've chosen the side of the Muslim Brotherhood, whether it's in Tunisia, whether it's been in Libya, whether it's been in Egypt, now in Syria. They're taking the side of what would be ostensibly the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Free Syrian Army, we heard on more than one occasion from heads of state across the Middle East that the Free Syrian Army, so-called good guys that we're getting behind in Syria,
the ones that Senator McCain likes,
that they're affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. That's General Idris.
You know what sort of, I don't know,
it's bizarre. You can't believe it.
Interesting, odd, bizarre, whatever term you want to use, is that Secretary Kerry made a sort of an aside today, saying that the only way that the limited strike won't happen is if Assad gives up his chemical weapons to the international community. And oddly, that has now sort of morphed into our foreign policy, because now we're having President Putin almost broker some deal to try to get rid of the chemical weapons. So we've gone from punishing and deterring to some sort of negotiate thing off an aside remark. That's our new foreign policy.
That's a political solution, but it's all playing out here on the table, kind of moment by moment. But actually having Putin involved isn't a bad thing, because President Putin actually is not a fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is a violent organization. In fact, I've got
But he's a fan of President Assad, who has managed to kill 100,000 people.
Sure he does. It's a complicated situation. But again, the Muslim Brotherhood and their worldview says that jihad is our way, dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. This is a death-worshipping cult, essentially. And so President Putin opposes having Islamic Jihad or the Muslim Brotherhood presence in Russia. He's not a bad guy to broker a deal.
Is it akin, though, to, I mean, sort of Putin sort of supporting Assad because he's better than the Muslim Brotherhood, even though he killed 100,000, is sort of like us sort of propping up Mubarak because he was better than what would come down the road.
Mubarak was better than what came down the road.
But nonetheless, still, in an ideal situation, he was certainly not ideal. He was just someone that answered to us because we supported him.
That's right. You have to choose among what you have available to you.
Do you want Assad at 100,000 dead, or do you want the Muslim Brotherhood, right? Is that essentially?
You don't want the Muslim Brotherhood.
So we take Assad by default.
You do not want the Muslim Brotherhood or Al-Qaeda or Al-Nusra Front or Ansar al-Sharia or any of these. You don't want them.
Therein lies how this has become so twisted and so terribly troubling, because the choices are so lousy.
They're lousy, but I will tell you, I sit on the Intelligence Committee. And months ago, when Senator Kerry was in front of our committee, I actually offered to him, how about this solution of the international community? Because I said, look at what we're looking at. This is months ago. And he said, oh, I don't think that would work. I don't think that would happen. But that is the way to go, because here you have the United States, you have Russia, you have various big countries that are involved. we could put the pressure to bear, because
if we got all those countries,
our interest is the chemical weapons.
If we got, we'd have to get the EU involved, the UK, get everybody involved.
I don't know if you'd even have to have every. I think there's enough big dogs in the block. If we can remove the chemical weapons, it isn't our fight whether Sunni or Shia rule in Syria. That's not our fight. Our concern are those chemical weapons and making sure they aren't used on Americans or any innocent people across the world.
Representative Bachmann, always nice to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Coming up.